So I've been teaching chemistry and environmental science this year. I do like environmental science. My background is in chemical engineering, and when I did my master's, I went through the area of civil engineering, specifically environmental engineering. And but teaching has been quite an interesting experience. And I think when I was younger, we never had when I was in high school and when I was in college, in my few years, I never had this piece of technology. Like cell phones have gotten smaller, have gotten more like having it's almost like having a mini computer with you. And one of the biggest thing is trying to get my students from getting into this to find the answers to the questions that I propose them, because I want them to learn, but just find the answers and not even thinking or not even looking into the textbook. And that's one of the other things, they don't have textbooks, which I'm kind of like, why they don't have textbooks, I don't know, but they should have textbooks. In science, you have to read, um, especially with something like chemistry, where you have to read definitions and know definitions before you move into the next topic, because you have to memorize stuff, you have to know things. Like everything builds up, you start like learning the basics, basic definition, what is an atom, protons, electrons, neutrons, and then you build up from that and you move into more advanced stuff. But you still have to know the basics to be able to understand the more complicated things that in chemistry, which I think it adds to the difficulty of understanding chemistry. And um, and that's why I think that having books or even good materials is important. But they always want to, they don't want to pay attention when I'm speaking. They want to go into the cell phones, have find the answers here, and then they want to submit that and think that they know everything and expect a grade. And then in the test, they flunk. They flunk. Um, on the bright side too, it's like, how can I compete with the technological advances that we have this day? Because honestly, like, I play video games, I enjoy playing video games. I know that video games have evolved to a. We went from, when you look at the graphics of the Atari 2600 versus the graphics that some of the new video games have, and even video games on the cell phone, it's different. It's more entertaining. The playing video games on this is more entertaining than any. And I hate to say this, even though I'm a teacher, but playing video games is more interesting than learning about chemistry. And again, chemistry hasn't changed much in over 31 years. Same things that I learned 31 years ago are the same things that I'm teaching this day. Not much has changed. Yeah, there are more examples that we can refer to, um, especially with solar cells and all that kind of stuff, but it has not changed much. Even back then when I took chemistry, it was an old science. It was not a science that was still in development. Not much has changed. The only thing that has changed, and this is going to sound ridiculous, is the definition of the mole. That changed in 2016, and we also have more man-made elements that have names, and you can find that because the periodic table doesn't extend as further. If I look at one of my old books, but um, the name of the man-made element changed, uh, and then of course the concept of the mole. They redefined the mole. I think it was around 2000. I don't want to say the year because I want to give wrong information, but they changed the concept of the mole. Um, Previously, there was a definition. They changed it. Now it's just one mole is equal 6.02 times 10 to the power of 23. That's the standard definition now of the mole. Um, so not much has changed since 31 years ago. A proton is still a proton, a neutron is still a neutron, an isotope is still an isotope. Um, Chemical reactions still happen by electrons moving. Either you give one element give an electron and the other one takes it and forms an ion and you get an ionic bond, or they share electrons. Not much has changed over the past 31 years, which I think adds to the problem that I'm facing as trying to teach chemistry, because and then of course labs sometimes they are not that fun. All you do is add, it's like cooking. When you cook, you add 1 cup of water, 1 cup of this. That's not quite impressive. The reaction happens at the molecular level. You are never going to be able to see the molecules reacting. You may see a change in color, but that's it. Or bubbles forming when the reaction generates a gas, but But that's it. The- Comparing to a video game in a cell phone, chemistry is quite boring, and there's no way around it. And the thing is because of the expectation that everything has to be fun or making it fun, like to me, chemistry is fun. I enjoy it. I like understand how reactions happen, and you can make some cool reactions and changes of color. But like to make everything, to teach everything, like it's fun and games, all that kind of stuff. Especially for a Huiyan class, I'm having difficulty making that happen. And then especially when students don't have patience and they don't want to read instructions and they don't want to read things. They just want to work on worksheets and they even pay attention to the instructions around the worksheet. I can barely get them to read the instructions properly. And then I tell them, oh, why this is wrong? I got this answer from this. This should be okay. You should be getting the points. Did you read the instructions? It's a fact. And being new doesn't help me because I don't know what else to do. I really don't know what else to do. And I find teaching to be. I think I've gotten to a point that is frustrating for me. And again, I understand why they probably don't have an interest because let's be honest, chemistry is a boring science. Environmental science is a boring science too. And again, mostly because United States have so many regulations that we don't see sometimes the impact of not having regulations. When you compare it to a different country that they may not have the same regulations that we have, we don't see those impacts around us sometimes. New York State is one of those states that we have very good environmental regulations, so chances of seeing contamination being a problem, it's 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 difficult, and even when contamination happens, and take for example lead in water, do we see the atoms of lead in the water? No. We can test it, we can find it, but do we see that? Do we see that with our? We have to use our imagination to see that, And I think that's the difficulty of teaching those sciences. And also, again, it's a science that people has to be interested in. Like I got interested in that because, while I understand that chemical engineering can be used to work in a pharmaceutical or work in a factory that will produce um, products for other industries and will provide um, materials or technology for different uses. Um, I also got concerned about the impacts of like production processes. What do we do? How do we make processes greener so that way there's no generation of contamination? And to me, that got me interested in that because I like the environment. I think that we humans need to manufacture things in a responsible way, um, so that way we have resources for the future. And but trying to teach that to somebody that may not have interest in that or may be more interested in playing video games or making TikTok videos, it's difficult. I don't know how to go change, make them interested in anymore. I'm running out of ideas. Yeah. Anyway, but this may take on things. I do like chemistry. I do like what I studied. I'm still passionate about those things, but at the same time, I found like getting to electricity and electronics more interesting, especially renewable energy, or as I like to call it, clean energy, which is the reason I'm going to Hudson Valley Community College and trying to study a degree in clean energy management, because I feel like, for example, a place like Puerto Rico, where the infrastructure for energy production, power plants specifically, have not been updated in such a long time. Solar energy, wind energy, alternative sources of energy are needed in Puerto Rico, and we will need to build more options for that in the upcoming year, especially if Puerto Rico wants to be um, independent of those plants that need to be updated, because honestly they are old and they are not working as they used to be, and also parts are difficult to find for those old plants too. So that's why I'm studying clean energy management at Hudson Valley Community College, which means that I've sidetracked from. I don't say a sidetrack because honestly, to understand solar energy, you also have to understand chemistry, because the semiconductors are material, they're made out of silicon, germanium. You understand how those atoms behave, then you can understand the manufacture of solar cells, and understanding how the electrons are transferred. That's part of what is electrochemistry, which is a part of chemistry too. So yeah, me liking electricity, yeah, it makes sense. It's part of chemistry. Batteries, how they're made, is also part of chemistry. Um, but trying to find that overlap, how can I make chemistry interesting? It's driving me. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, that's all I have for now. If people have ideas, I also like computer programming, and if I could do more computer programming, more engaging simulations might be the way to go. But I'm not a big programmer, but I know how to program things. So, you know, um, but now it's soon I'll be able to use Google, to go into those simulations. That is also a problem, especially now that is happening in the school. They can no longer use Google search engine anymore, unfortunately. So, um, doing simulations now, it's no longer may not be viable at the school. Um, I want to do experiments, but I need to have my lab need to catch up on some safety requirements that need to be in place before I can do experiment hands-on. But then again, even if I want to do experiments, it's like how can I make them read the procedure before they actually do things? They always want to do things before reading. It's it's tough. It's tough. Teaching is tough. It's not easy. Anyway, that's all I have for now. Till the next video.